Guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to get this outer body gasket installed on these tail lights for your 78 to 81 Camaro. Stick around. So this is the third video in this video series. This is final assembly. If you hadn't seen the other two previous videos, I want to invite you to go back to those. There'll be a playlist in the description below. It'll take you from disassembly all the way through the restoration process of the housings, all the way through to final assembly. Okay guys, before we actually get started assembling our tail lights for our project FastTimes Camaro, we've got an important decision to make. We've actually got to decide whether we want to use the plain Jane lens like we have it, or if we actually want to use what came on the 80 and 81 Camaro Z's, which was the tail light with the black stripe down the middle and around the perimeter. Now this is actually one of the originals off of Project FastTimes. And you can see where evidence of it used to be black through here and on the top. A lot of it's faded off. This piece right here, I actually painted that on with the trim black just to give myself an idea of what it would look like. These are the NOS GM lenses that I've had put up in a box for some time. Now they're not perfect by any means. They've got some shelf wear on them, as you'll find with a lot of NOS parts. They've also got a few scratches. You see a nice little scratch right there. But this tail light is pretty much what you would have found on your 1978 and 79 Z28s. The Berlinetta Camaros had their own tail light with a basically two chrome beads that ran down the center, and I think it was black in the middle as well. I'll put a picture up of one of those so you'll know the three different versions of tail lights you may encounter while working on these cars. But we've got to decide which one we like. Now, I actually put them both up against the car, and I asked some of the guys on Instagram which one you like. And overwhelming, it was the one with the black stripe. It just looked better, and I think it looks better with the silver as well. So we are going to be adding the black stripe to our new NOS lenses. Some people would actually say that we're going to destroy a set of NOS lenses. I think it comes down to personal preference, you know, which one do you like the best. All right, so now it's time to go ahead and start prepping these for paint. And on our original ones, you'll see that this black line doesn't come all the way to the edge. We're going to be using some 1/8 inch fine line tape to trim around that. It's actually going to work in our favor because we've got some DOT lettering right here that we won't have to worry about taping against. We'll just tape all this up here. As far as this stripe goes in the middle, it doesn't come all the way up. You can tell that it's just a little bit, I still got about 1/8 inch there. Probably going to run mine all the way up. It's just going to be easier to tape that way. And I don't think you'll notice much of a difference. Like I said, this little area right here I did practice with the trim paint. And you know, I don't think that makes too big of a difference. But it is going to help us as far as not having to deal with trying to get a crisp edge on that lettering. Before we actually paint these, we'll go ahead and clean them real well with a waterborne wax and grease remover, just in the area that we're going to be prepping for paint. Then we'll go ahead and we'll apply just our tape, just to give us that nice line. I do not want to take any of the sheen off of the new plastic because I don't want to have to clear over these tail lights. So we're just going to be adding the black, and once that's done, we'll clean everything really good again and start taping up everything for a final prep for paint, and we'll be ready to spray. So this is our right hand lens, and it's ready to go, ready to paint. It's been cleaned, and we're just kind of letting the cleaner evaporate from the surface. And one thing I wanted to show you guys, see how these transitions between the two lenses match up really well. Over here, I noticed as I was sanding it and taping it that right in this area and in this area, I've got a little bit of a hole there. And let me demonstrate that. You can see it's probably a good 1/8 of an inch there on both sides. Now we don't have that on the other lens, nor do I have that on the original. So I hadn't noticed that until I was actually in the process of masking it. So I was just thinking out loud, I wonder if maybe these were actually meant for Berlinettas, and maybe that's the mounting hole that those chrome strips mount to. I'm not sure. If you've ever dealt with those taillights, leave a comment and let us know. But there's definitely a difference. Or maybe they're just factory blemishes. And you know, like I've said before, just because it's NOS doesn't mean that it's a reason it wasn't put in a box for some reason at that time. You know, maybe not just a leftover. Maybe it is a factory blemish, wasn't good enough to go on a factory car. So I got a couple options, I guess. We could just scrap them and go with the OER replacement lenses, which are pretty good lenses. Just looking at the way these line up, they're not the best. And there's some raw plastic edges here that may interfere with some of the gaskets. They're just not on the same plane when they were glued together. So like I said, we could opt for the OER ones and just scrap this and move forward, or we could press forward and go ahead and put the black on and you know, see how they turn out. I think we're going to go ahead for now and keep going. I'm going to try to fill this with some fiberglass and just lightly sand it and see how it turns out. We may put some primer on it and sand it. I'm really trying to make that perfect. I'm just trying to fill these holes in. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how that's going to work with fiberglass and how much primer it's going to take to smooth it all out, basically to trick your eye to know that we weren't there. We're just going to have to see. Alright guys, hopefully this is showing up on camera. I have filled these small little imperfections, these holes. Overall, it don't look too bad. But like I said, my experience with something like this, once you paint it, it's even magnified that much more. We'll go ahead and let this harden on up, and then we'll sand it down just a little bit, and it's going to be what it's going to be. Ain't a lot you can do with it. This old lens laying here and just had a lot of scratches and everything. And if you remember, I told you that these NOS lenses that I had just had a lot of shelf wear, a lot of micro scratches. It wasn't nowhere near the damage that's been done to this, you know, 40+ year old part, almost 50 years old really. But I just want to show you this area right here is what I polished versus this. And I'm hoping that's showing up on the camera. Huge difference. But while I had that polisher out, I thought I would just try it on the amber and the red. And it really, really worked good. I didn't try it on the clear because, as you guys know, compound is just liquid sandpaper, and I didn't know if I could bring back the clarity. Some things you just can't. I didn't really have any scratches on the clear part anyway. It was mostly the red. And so I opted just to leave that part alone. But I did try it on the amber and the red. It worked really good. I'm gonna give you a good look at them. This is the driver's side. And in this area here, I don't know if you remember from looking at it in the past, just was a lot of micro scratches in there. And I'll tell you what, that polish took every bit of it out. This is the side that we fixed, and this is how it pretty much turned out. I did go back over it, just a little bit of glaze, and added a little bit more black to it. The passenger side looks really good as well. You're going to notice it looks a little bit darker. That's only because the tape is basically still on the back side. And that's why it's pretty much darker versus being transparent. You can see my fingers behind there. And actually, when I came up to this, I actually had to look really close to see which one we fixed. So with me knowing that we fixed this, I was able to determine it. But I'm real happy with the way that turned out. Here's what it's really supposed to look like. And like I said, the fit up on this wasn't the best. This one still has one pretty good deep gouge in it right here. I didn't want to get up into close to this black because I had already painted that. Once the gasket goes over that, I don't think you're going to see a lot of it anyway. But like I said, I had mentioned to you guys about the shelfware and just being in storage for all these years, being in a box. And I just wanted to show you what that polish is capable of doing. It's designed for a 3-inch or less pad. And that's the part number right there. It pretty much tells you less than a 3-inch pad right there. And pretty much ran it wide open. That's on 6. And that's pretty much where I kept it at. Really like this polisher. Starts out kind of slow and ramps up to speed. This is the adapter that came with this micro polisher. And this is the micro polisher. Now this thing does go through collets, so you want to have plenty of collets on hand. About 2 hours is the life of a collet on this thing. I don't know if it's something that I was doing or if it's just the nature of it, but I did go through about 2 or 3 collets when polishing those wheels. This is my Chemical Guys series polish, 32, 34, 36, and 38. 32 and 34 are your cutting compounds, and these are more of your polishing compounds, 36 and 38. These are the pads. They just Velcro right to the end of this polisher. And as you can tell, this one's been used quite a bit. Right here's a used one versus a new one. And you can wash these and you'll get quite a bit of use out of them. On the 32, I'm usually using the green. And on the 34, I'm using the blue or the green. These pads do come with this polisher in a kit on Amazon, and I'll leave a link. It also comes with the attachment for a 5/8 on your rotary. So when you buy your new outer body gaskets for your Camaro, whether it's OER or whether you're lucky enough to find a set of NOS GM ones, they're going to come pretty much balled up, kind of like this, and they're going to be really stiff. This particular gasket just happens to be a new old stock from GM. It's the right side. That's the part number right there. I ended up going with the OER for mine just because I never could find a GM left side. I have the right side, but couldn't find the left side. And actually the OERs did pretty good. Probably the best advice I can give to anybody that's getting ready to install a set of these outer body gaskets is to go ahead and get them out of the package immediately once you get them. And it helps to set them in the sun. Once you set them in the sun, they'll relax. And you can see here just how this one's done compared to the one I just showed you. It's got a little bit of kind of memory built into it where it's been in the package, but set them in the sun, get them warm. If it's wintertime, you can always use a set of halogen lights. Put those on them, warm them up pretty good. That'll help them relax and help them just be a little bit more manageable when you go to install them. So that's the best tip I could give you. So this here's our left side housing, and it also is the housing that basically the fuel door secures to. It's been restored. I've also went ahead and put the inner gasket in, and the same thing goes for this inner gasket. When you get it and you get it out of the package, go ahead and just let it sit out a little bit and it will flatten out. And I have put just a few drops of silicone in the corners just to hold it. If you remember, in a previous episode, we actually restored this area here, and we're using the Chicago screws. This is actually for our fuel door, and if you'd like to see how we did that, it will be in the previous episode, and there'll be a link in the description below. You'll know you got this piece right if this is closed off toward the end of the taillight housing. That looks like so far. I've got the two screws here started, and this one is just a little loose because I want to be able to pull this if I need to. Hey guys, we're in the middle of this video edit, and I wanted to jump in here and explain a few things. So this video almost was scrapped, and the reason being I had lost the footage on two different occasions because the battery died on the M50. Apparently when that battery dies, it doesn't write what's previously recorded to the SD card. So going forward, I'll have to buy a power adapter to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I wanted to explain a few things in the video. I actually recorded both segments of the left and the right taillight housing being assembled. However, due to the lost footage, you'll actually see me jump back and forth. Thankfully, I recorded both segments. My original plan was to do one and just get the feeling for it, and then just actually film the other. Thank goodness I filmed both sides. It's kind of like brake pads the first time you're installing them on a car that you've never worked on before. The first side takes you a while, the second side takes you about half the time. So during the video you may see me jumping back and forth between the left and the right side, and that's what's happened. This pretty much is your starting point on assembling these tail lights. And now we're going to go ahead and set our lens in place and start working it in these grooves here. It's going to take a little patience. Actually, it's going to take a lot of patience, I do believe. As I start this, I'm going to go ahead and start the screw just to kind of hold it in place here. Just so it doesn't want to slip out on us. But you can see I've got it in place here all the way over to here, and then I've got the screws in place there too. Same thing on this back side. Hopefully that's coming into the view. Okay, I'm having to stretch this gasket just a little bit to get it in place. Just don't want to force anything at this stage. That one area is not wanting to slide in there. All right, so I've pretty much got it where it needs to go, the best I can tell. Now it's just a matter of slowly tightening all this down. And I want to take my time doing that, make sure we don't crack anything. And if you'll remember from our disassembly video, this part of the gasket doesn't follow the curve of the tail light. It kind of just takes a shortcut down through here. So I'm gonna get me a ratchet, slowly start tightening this up. And as I tighten it up, I'm going to take the pressure and apply it with my hands. And that way I'm not trying to force this all together. It's looking good. And once it's on the car, this top piece here will lay against the car and it will actually cause it to relax a little bit more. This is a new fuel door along with the new filler pieces. We may have to adjust this once it goes on the car, but I'm going to try this to set it right in the middle for now. And depending on the gap we have from the other tail light, we can slide this and make the gap from this tail light to this tail light even. I have restored the original bolts. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to know how to do that. Not going to tighten them up just yet because, like I said, once we get them on the car, there will be some adjustment that needs to be made. Guys, there is one more piece to the puzzle. This is the hardware that basically screws onto the back of the housing. Again, these are the originals and they've been restored, and there'll be a link in the description below. They should just screw right in. So I have went back and added the attachment hardware where it actually goes through the rear tail panel and attaches to the body of the car. And this here's what it looks like as a finished assembly. So guys, I thought we were done with these tail lights, and I had posted a picture of them on my Instagram account, and a fella by the name of Crowe contacted me, and he said, I have a fix for that taillight gasket. Obviously he's talking about this part of the bottom corner where the gasket kind of takes that shortcut. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of the way the original one was. When I removed it from the car, it took that shortcut and went around the corner there. And basically the fix is this bracket that he makes. At first I looked at it and I was like, well, I wonder how much difference it really makes. And then he showed me a picture of his already assembled, and it really looked good on there. And then I got to wondering about how much of a difference it would make on the car. And I looked back at my car, and sure enough, there is a little bit of a gaping hole there where the bumper curves around these taillights. Then he sent me a picture of his car, and I said, wow, that does look really good. You can feel it break through. Just don't be having a lot of force on it. I'm gonna get this side started, and then we'll have one of them in. There's one. There we go. There's two. Get it all the way on there. That ought to do it. Get my bifocals on here so I can see what I'm doing. That's it. Now, I want to slowly start bringing this back in. I may have got this just a little too tight right here because it's wanting to pull under. So I need to pull that back out. Like I said, I might have got that one a little tight, but that worked. And hopefully once these things get a little age on them, they won't shrink any. That's pretty tight right through there. That's what we wanted. Not too bad. One thing that I've noticed on these tail lights, some of these housings are setting a little closer to the lens than the others. That other spare that I had, it seemed like it had plenty of room, and that's why I was picking that up. Once you crimp that down, there is still a little bit of space between the bottom of the rivet and the lens. But as you can see right there, the way that looks. No more shortcut. Can't wait to see what it looks like on the car. So guys, it's the small details like this in a restoration that's going to set your car apart from all the others. Just because GM took a shortcut doesn't mean you have to. I want to thank Gordon for reaching out to me. That there is his card. I've got his phone number blocked out. I'm sure he don't want that on YouTube, but I will put a link in the description below to contact him through his Instagram. If you want to get your hands on a set of these brackets and use them on your restoration, be sure to reach out to him, tell him Double R Restoration sent you. One more footnote from our edit room, and it deals with our gasket mod. So on the brackets that Gordon sent, I actually didn't follow the directions correctly. Gordon recommends putting the washer on the inside of the housing when you pull the pop rivet closed, and I actually put mine on the outside. We talked about it. We think we're okay. The reason being, I used a different rivet than what Gordon had sent, and it was purely accidental. I actually thought he had sent a few extras and was practicing on that old housing that was cracked that we replaced, and just trying to get a feel of it before I committed to our project. And then I realized I had gotten carried away and I didn't have enough rivets to actually install them. So went out and bought this rivet at my local hardware store. It's called a Shore Bonder, and it kind of crinkles up. I'll show you a picture of that. And I believe we're okay. Talked it over with Gordon, and it should be fine. There's no stress on that part really, other than it just making the gasket conform to the corner of the lens. But just know, if you buy these brackets from Gordon, he actually recommends that washer going on the inside. I didn't really want to take mine apart. That's really the reason I did that. But I really did not realize that I had not followed the directions that he had sent. But I just wanted to add that to the video. That way you'll know the correct way to do it. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about the bulbs. You know, maybe LEDs versus the incandescent. They actually make a kit that you mount inside your housings that are fully LED. I thought about that, but then I had some reservations about it. Number one was the cost. They're pretty expensive. And the other part of it is where they mount inside the housing. Those LED bulbs, even though I think they're a lot better than incandescent due to many factors. Some of them are brighter. They are basically a lot cooler. They don't put out the heat. And I really like that because this is a small space. And when you have a bulb in there that produces a lot of heat in this plastic, well, that's not too good. But that's the way the factory did it, so that way is perfectly acceptable. But I've had those LED lights that are sealed units on my trailer, and I've had a lot of trouble with just certain LEDs on those boards going out. And one thing for me, I did not want any serviceable parts inside this assembly. Basically because I didn't want to have to pull it back apart just because an LED burned out or anything. You know, just taking them off of the car is bad enough for me. When we did the disassembly, we did end up having to drop the bumper down just a little bit, mainly because those outer body gaskets were so stiff and so hard. They didn't have any flex to them. So I kind of steer clear of putting any type of LED modules in these taillights, but I do like the fact of LED bulbs. And there's a company called Diode Dynamics that makes a set of bulbs for these older cars, and they guarantee them to work. Now, I'm not sponsored by them. I actually bought this with my own money, and this is what I'm planning on using instead of the traditional incandescent bulb. They do require a solid state flasher, and when we get to that part of the install, I will need that. So basically, you've got this set of bulbs, which is a cool white pair. It's an 1156 type bulb, and it's an HP 48 LED. Hopefully that's showing up. So this would be your reverse. This one here, which actually looks the same, except for basically the single electrical point. It's a double. It's 1157 HP 48 LED, and it's the amber. So this would be for our signal lights. And then we have another one that looks exactly the same as the signal light ones. It's got the two filaments in it, and it's 1157 HP 48 red. And then there's one more. If you remember, this section over here has the P194 marker lens bulb. They make that as well in an LED, and the part number on it is 2X194 HP-3R. And like I said, it's just a 194 equivalent LED, and it's in that. If I remember right, this one is in red, if I remember right. So a lot of times when I'm working on these cars and I'm working on a certain area, I try to go ahead and buy what I need for that part of the restoration. And on this particular part, I did buy a new taillight harness. It's a rear lamp harness for the 78 to 81 Camaro. And this one, usually I go with American Auto wire. This one is a different one. It comes from one of the restoration houses. But it is an M&H Electric. Again, not sponsored by them, but they were a little bit cheaper as far as the other competitors, and basically the reviews was good, and you know, just I haven't taken it out of the bag yet, but the quality of the connectors and everything looks to be there. One of my pet peeves on these old cars is wiring. These old connectors and everything, they're 40 plus years old, and basically I like to have all the wiring new if possible. Even though we're ways from needing these on the car, I want to see what they look like on the car. Not only do I want to see what they look like on the car, I want to light them up with the new LED bulbs and see what they look like, and just kind of see all this work that we've done and see it come full circle, see if it was worth it. I believe it will be. So guys, this is the part of the video that I've been waiting for. I want to try these taillights on Project FastTimes. I also want to power up one of these diode dynamic bulbs, and I want to show you what the difference is between the heat that an incandescent puts out, like the factory uses, and what these diode dynamic LEDs put out. Now, the HP 48s are basically the same output as far as the light goes as what the factory used. They've got some other ones that go up brighter, but of course the price goes up. And these kind of the basic baseline stock replacements. So I've got the incandescents on the driver's side, on the tail light bulbs and the marker bulbs, and I've got the diode dynamics on the passenger side. And I'll bring you in for a closer look. You can see just how cool those are. Hopefully the camera's picking it up. Both of them outputting in red. And then this is going to be our turn signal, and that is going to be our reverse versus the stock over here. So these bulbs have been burning for about 5 minutes now. These are the bulbs that would be burning if you were going down the road at night. 218 degrees on that taillight bulb, 109 on the 194. And you could feel the heat radiating off of them. And this is just out in the open air, so you just have to remember these are going inside of an enclosed plastic housing. The LEDs are sitting at 81, 194 is right at 94. Can't really feel any of the heat or anything. Guys, I'll tell you, nothing's ever easy when it comes to these old Camaros, it seems like. My reverse bulb, everything fit except for the reverse bulb. And for some reason, when you put it into the socket, it bottoms out right at the edge of the bulb. And the regular incandescent, it works fine. The other ones don't come up nearly as high as the reverse ones. So all I need to do, everything around here is custom. All I need to do is just barely take off this edge here and it'll work. Not much at all. I even tried it on the new harness that I've got. Same thing. Time you push down on it, it just barely bottoms out enough to be able to twist. It's something I'll have to reach out to them and ask them about. I mean, just a couple trips around the edge of that socket and it's still got a really good seal. Bring you in for a closer look. You can see there what I'm talking about. That thing just would not seat without just removing just a touch of material. And it wasn't the socket. At first I thought it was just crud in this old one. But my new one's the same way. Wouldn't fit. And I measured from here to here about the same as an incandescent. So I don't think we'll have any trouble once we go into the lenses as well. I'm struggling on a little bit, YouTube. Okay guys, I've been struggling with this thing for about an hour now. It's not too bad. It will need a pre-fitment mock-up before final assembly. And that's really not the purpose of this video. I just kind of wanted to get them back on the car and take a look at our hard work of actually restoring tail lights. There's a few places that the gasket needs to settle out a little bit. And I believe that will happen eventually once it's on the car. But overall, this is kind of where we were at. And I gotta say, I'm real happy with the way it looks. I've got this jack just kind of holding the bumper up. If you remember in our disassembly video, we did drop the bumper to get these out. And I'm gonna have to do that again. And I didn't want to take a bunch of time in fitting that thing up when I could just hold it up with the jack and give you an idea. The actual mock-up of this prior to a final assembly is another video for another day. But anyway, let's enjoy what we've done here so far. Can't wait to show you what these things look like when they're lit up. Guys, y'all look away. We're gonna make hot rod noises. So overall, they look really good on the car. I haven't adjusted our gap at all. there on our fuel door, just setting them right in the middle was about the money spot. This side of the bumper is a little bit more closer, and you can get an idea of just how good that looks going around the corner. So what sold me on this mod here was when I came out and looked at mine, it had this big hole there. And I told Gordon, once you see that, you can't unsee it. And when I'm at shows, that's one of the things I look for in these 78 to 81 Camaros now, because it just sticks out to me. You can see just how good that's going to look, especially once the bumper is mated up properly. Again, I want this to relax just a little bit. I've got a little gap there that needs to kind of relax, and I may loosen this up and pull this gasket outward just a touch and then retighten it. But overall, the final fitment looks really good. The gasket's going to have to relax a little bit where it lays in this area, and I believe over time it will do that. This passenger side is a little bit of the worst side of it. Check that out. Did somebody say disco or what? Now, obviously, that's not how it's going to look going down the road. The turn signals are never going to be solid like that, and the reverse lights are going to be on full time unless you're in reverse. But look at the clarity. It just looks so cool. And like I said, guys, this is about the equivalent of the stock bulb. So that right there is what they should look like just going down the road at night. I'll go ahead and hit the brakes, show you what that looks like. This should be the brakes. You can tell they got brighter. All right, let's do a left turn. And all I'm doing is working the wires here, guys. Right turn, Clyde. All right, and then let's do reverse. So you can see these HP 48 bulbs are plenty bright enough. At least I think they are. I probably will have to do something about this dingy tag light now. I tell you, these taillights, the restoration on them is not easy. Most of the stuff that we used from the originals was not much, just one taillight housing, I believe. Everything else we replaced. We had our own hurdles to overcome with some of the NOS lenses that we had, along with the OER gasket. Thank goodness we have them, because the NOS GM ones are almost non-existent. I do have one. I'm still looking for the other one. But I think we'll probably run these OERs. We're not done with the final mock-up on this by any means. I feel good enough that we can close the restoration part of the taillight housings out. You'll see them again when we do the mock-up for our final assembly on this car, but that'll be sometime down the road. We've been basically on these taillights for a while now. And the reason being, I've been working on them just on my spare time when Sam and I could not work on Project Sally. But Project Sally is just about done, and Project OverKill is actually coming back into the garage, and we're actually going to be getting back to work on it. I'm super excited to get back onto that project and wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Please subscribe if you hadn't. We'll see you next time.